Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dance Sensuality Series. Today is episode 4. Woohoo! No. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Dance Sensuality Series. And I'm going to share with you some lessons after taking an intentional year off of performing and how this relates to sensuality. So first, I'm going to share the backstory. So last year, 2023, I was on the high of my pole journey. I came back from burnout and symptoms of autoimmune illness, and I went ahead and did a competition for the first time in 4 years. Like, this was supposed to be my comeback story, but instead I decided to do all of that also while I was on a new work project at my 9-to-5, trying to overprove myself as a worthy web developer. And I was also in the midst of a breakup and a major move after being in a relationship for about 3.5 years before I decided to leave him and move out. And all of that on top of, after doing the competition and of course not getting the results I want due to some technical reasons and me deciding to do a more dramatic routine in the entertainment category, which is what the judges said, but I digress. And I just bypassed all of my feelings, and eventually when it came time for a showcase that I was doing last year around this time, I completely dreaded the piece that I was creating. Even though I took a 4-week course to build my routine with mentorship. It was called, I forgot, it was something about getting you to the stage. It was at Studio Nightshade, and it really was helpful, but I couldn't even take the feedback because I was just so down and depressed. And by Christmas time, I was eventually diagnosed with depression. And I ended up dropping out of that showcase. I couldn't even get myself to follow through with it. And pole was no longer fun for me at the end of 2023, even though now I have a pole in my living room and all I did was just stare at it in shame. But anyway, now that that's in the past, I've learned a lot coming out of that state of depression, because obviously you can't stay at the top of Mount Everest forever, and you can't also stay in the bottom of a hole forever. So there are a lot of lessons learned that helped me get more in touch with myself in 2024, even if things have not gone the way I would have expected. So the first lesson is that if your mental health is shit, it is not worth risking an injury on stage because your brain is not fully present, because you're thinking about maybe like what your mom said to you the day before that, and now you're trying to be all sensual and expressive on stage, and all you look like is a blank robot. Lesson 2. When I burnt out last year, I regressed my pole training to do more foundational movements, so I didn't have to take a full break again, because I still wanted to enjoy exercise. And it's funny because if I exercise too much, my back hurts and I burn out, but if I don't exercise enough, I go down a hole and I also burn out. So it's really about finding that happy medium so you can still enjoy yourself and dance, and it doesn't have to be the hardest fucking workout of your life doing Cupid to Aisha like I was doing today. Alright, next lesson. No job is worth your sanity regardless of how much money you earn. And it really didn't matter that I was earning the highest salary of my life during that high period of going through all of those major life changes. And because I went through those major life changes and didn't take the time to process it, I burnt all of that money to the ground and am currently processing those feelings now. I spent it on quick fixes like trauma dumping to my mentor and my therapist instead of making moves in my business. I just wallowed in all of the shame I felt throughout most of 2024 and did nothing about it until my job threw me under the back burner, and then I had to look at my shit because I really had no choice anymore. Yay! Fun times. Alright. The next lesson is that meds don't work for everyone. I tried them with a support system and it made my gut worse than it already is. Meaning that if I'm going through a flare-up, it's really difficult to try and dance because all I want to do is just curl up in a ball in bed. And I probably did that a lot. Instead of pole dancing and then feeling sorry for myself while staring at other people dancing on Instagram, being like, oh, I wanted to dance today, but I didn't because I was flaring up, and then going down a spiral. Which is exactly why I set boundaries on how long I spend on social media. So that way, when I am too busy feeling sorry for myself, I can be like, oh yeah, I have this pole in my living room. Let's plan accordingly and use it. That would help. And instead of taking the meds, which greatly affected my grip on the pole, and it made it really difficult to climb, which is a lot of the reason why I had to regress my tricks for a while, and now they're finally coming back because I've allowed myself to take that time to really explore what feels good in my body. And it's not just about dance. It's like everything in your life affects how you move, and if meds work for you and they help you dance better because it cuts the noise out, that's great, but it did not cut the noise out for me, and it just made everything worse. At the end, all I really needed are a few good cries in the bathtub without suppressing tears and some medical THC, which I still use right now, right before recording this podcast. Alright, one more lesson before I leave you folks. Dealing with rejection after not getting into shows really fucking sucks. I'm currently dealing with this right now. But if you retreat into your head, you're telling the other person, aka the curator, that it's not safe to be around you, which will further the rejection cycle along. And the only remedy is to shake it off and try again until the inevitable happens, and that is that they say yes. And if you don't deal with rejection, then you're just rejecting yourself in the end, and you can't really be yourself because you keep trying to fit into a box, and that box is very small because you don't allow yourself to really explore other opportunities after the rejection because you're just sitting in a hole. So that's what I've been up to in 2024. It took me over a year after my last rejection to finally try again and, get rejected again. But that's okay because if I stopped trying, then I've basically given up and I should just move back home with my parents in that case. But that's not what's happening because I have made it so far and I've done all of this work only to end up giving it up. Absolutely not. And that keeps me driven to keep exploring myself and my body and doing more to get out of my comfort zone, which is going and making more friends in the community, because then I feel safer to express myself around people, which at the end of the day, really helps with dancing, because if you don't feel safe in your body, of course you're going to look blacked out to the audience because you're in your head when you're dancing. And when you just think of rejection as something neutral or another opportunity, it changes the entire perspective on your entire life, and it just brings more motivation and more fire into you because you've been through all that shit, and then you're able to show it and express that, whether it's at your house or on stage, which is the goal for most people reading this podcast, I'm assuming, to do more than they're already doing now in their lives. Like if you're just a student and you want to become a more professional seasoned dancer even without any dancing experience. That's where I'm at right now in my journey, and I'm excited to bring you guys with me in 2025 and come along with me for this wild fucking ride. Thank God the year is almost over.